Got something you'd like to share?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. If I can through it, these guys are making me cry. Once the floodgates open, it's hard to close. So, really, it's kind of amazing that I even wound up with Albert, because before I was saved, if I had known what his background was, I would have been like, he's a bad boy. I can't hang with him. But once you're saved, you bear witness with the Spirit, and in spite of his past, you can see that light shining in people. And this is hard.
It's good for you.
It is good. Amen. I guess I can tell you my salvation testimony. It was in around 2001, 2002. I had no upbringing in the church, nothing. I remember when I was in elementary school, kids inviting me to go to like their kids' church or whatever. I was so afraid to go because I thought, oh my gosh, if they ask me any questions about the Bible, I haven't a clue. I was just afraid that anybody would see that I didn't know anything, because it seemed like all my friends went to church. I never went to church. My dad kind of knew the Bible a little bit from when he was a kid, and he kind of had his own perception of God in his mind, and that kind of was projected onto me. You don't have to go to church to believe in God and all that kind of stuff. So I remember, though, as a young child in the 80s, watching Jimmy Swaggart on Sunday mornings and Kenneth Copeland when cartoons weren't on Sunday mornings. And it was church at home if you didn't go to church. So I remember being really interested in that because my dad liked Jimmy Swaggart. And so I thought, okay, if my dad likes him, I can watch him. And I remember so many times, because I didn't understand, so many times just, saying that sinner's prayer. He'd always play, There's Room at the Cross for You. He'd always play that song. And I would say the sinner's prayer, thinking if I do it over and over, it might work. But I didn't know. I was a kid. And as I grew up, I didn't have anything to do with God. My dad instilled things into me that basically said, don't get pregnant, go get a career, get your education, nobody can take that from you. If you get your education and start a career, then you start a family, and then you'll be secure. It was always about being secure in your life. And my dad grew up on the back end of the Depression, so a lot of that made sense, plus he was a father at the age of 17. So he projected all of that onto me as I was growing up, and I did that. I went to school, I went to UT, I got my degree, started my career, and then God said, it's time for a change. Mind you, no upbringing with the Bible or anything. I had a dream one night about the rapture that just shook me to my core. And just to explain a little bit, I was like on this veranda, and all I could really see was the sky and this white veranda. And there was all this cool stuff going on in the sky. The clouds were making formations and turning into doves and different things. And there were these people milling around me, just kind of walking around. They're like, yeah, the rapture's about to happen. I'm like, yeah, the rapture's about to happen. Hello, what? Why all the, they were real nonchalant. Yeah, the rapture's about to happen. And I remember them walking, we're going to go down in the basement, they said. And they were walking down into this pit, into the basement. I really didn't understand what all that meant at the time, but I knew I wasn't going in the basement because that wasn't going to save me, and that's what I was yelling at them. I was like, are you crazy? We got to repent. No upbringing, had no idea what this dream was about. I remember, the last thing I remember was falling to my knees and just crying out to God, and I was crying, I was sobbing. God, forgive me. Give me one last chance before you come. And I woke up. It woke me up in a hurry. And I was really crying. My face and my pillow were all wet. I was shook, man. I was shaking. I was so afraid. And I mean, you're afraid when you're not right. When you don't have the redemption, but you have the fear, you're in trouble. And that's exactly where I was at. And I remember talking to people. I remember asking a guy at work. His name was Wally. And because he was one of the few people I knew that went to church. And I said, Wally, I had this dream, and I explained it to him. He said, oh, you'd like the Left Behind books. So I started reading the Left Behind books. I was going for my master's degree, so I was studying a lot, and I was finding time to read those books because that was important to me. That dream was in the forefront of my mind for weeks.